Hey everyone, welcome to DokusCore. My name is Docus, and I'm going to show you another teaser. We have integrated PolyZones into DokusCore, and I have quite edited it, so you can do a lot more with it. So let's see what happens if I walk up to this thing. I immediately and automatically go into a scenario. Now you can stop the scenario again with scenario stop, and then he will put the X away. I can just walk out if I want, walk away, but if I would walk back, I would start the scenario again. So how are we doing this? Let me show you. Before we're going to create a zone, I want to show you where the zones are saved. If you make a zone and you are saving it, it will be, a file will be created inside this folder, a text file. And that contains all the vectors for every corner that you have made. And it will also contain the upper z-axis and the lower z-axis, what is important to define a complete box. But right now it's empty. Let's create a box and you will see what will happen. So in order to create a zone, what we're going to do is we hit left alt, and only admins can do this. So we hold Z, that we're going to start the zoning. So I'm going to stand right here at this side right here. Find a nice spot, and then I'm going to say start. Now you can see that the first zone, the first corner has been added. I'm going to walk to the other side and I'm going to hold E, what adds a second vector. Then I am stepping away, hold E again, and it adds another vector. And then at the end, E again, and it creates my box that I want to have. If you're happy with it, then you hit finish. And now let's see what happens within that folder. If I go to the folder right now, I can see that I have here a file. And if I'm going to show the file for a moment, it will basically look like this. You will get a list of vectors and you get the bottom and top Z coordinates. So that is what you need, and what we're going to do now is we're going to copy this row of chords in a moment, and the bottom z-axis. So if I would go to the script, I can now add in a zone. There we go, so the Valentine grinder. Now you can push any kind of metadata that you want to push via this event, no problem. If you want the box to be shown so that you can see the box, you set this to true, as well for the grids. And this are the Z coordinates. And of course here we have to put in the vectors. Here you can put in the event. It can either be client side or server side. And it's going to be Docus zone enter and Docus zone exit that I'll show you in a second. That is basically what I want to have for right now. So if I'm going to take these vectors that we created and I'm going to put them in here, and I'm also going to look at the Z axis. So that's 116.25, 116.27, what is kind of very low. So I have it to 115 to 118. That basically covers quite a bit. So now we, for example, have this event here. So let's create an event for this trigger. So now I have the scenario Docus zone enter, and I have the scenario Docus zone exit. What is the exact same that I have here in the config. And now watch what happens. If I now activate the plugin DokusCore Zones, a box will create it around the grinder. So if I now enter the box, automatically the event that we have put in there, so that's going to be the scenario event, will be played, and it will start doing this scenario until you stop it. But this is automatically activated the moment you get into the box. So if we now say scenario stop, it will stop the scenario. And I can walk out of the box, but if I walk back into the box, it will trigger that same scenario once again. So this way you can define your own boxes, your own zones, and depending on what you want to do with the zones, you can connect an event to it. So now with the grids disabled, if I restart the plugin, you will see there are no grids, but if I walk up to the grinder, it will automatically start the event. And this is how the new box, the zone system works. It is shout out to PolyZone, because this is the PolyZone plugin, not the zone DokusCore zones plugin that we created, but we have integrated PolyZones into DokusCore itself, what is now called DokusZones, and we also have heavily edited. Again, if we go to Atom, then we can see here, for example, the name, the metadata, the use event, the events on enter, on exit, those were not there. So we were unable to actually execute an event in a different plugin using PolyZones like this. So I have edited PolyZones so it could do things like this, and with that we can start to define all the zones on the map for NPCs, places like messages of NPCs, welcome messages, yes or not, and things like that. So we're not depending on constantly checking your coordinates or having this circle around an NPC that does not tightly fit in a building, and it would, for example, also activate whenever you are outside of the building because you're still within its radius. So with that we can actually make sure that that does not happen. A quick example that I have here for the Valentine stable, I put the metadata stables in Valentine so that the plugin knows what kind of zone it is, and on entering zone the NPC should say hello, and whenever we exit it says goodbye. And actually what it says is passed through the meta below the event, so you can do it like that if you want to. So let's see how that looks in game. So if I would now walk to the stables, you will see that inside there is also a grid. So if I now walk into the stables and I pass the red border, I'm getting greeted by the NPC that is non-existing right now. But there is also a designated area for the NPC itself. If I walk out and I pass the red border, I'm getting the message goodbye. So we are not allowed. So we are not depending anymore on radiuses of circles. So if an NPC would be standing right here and he would have a circle around him that, for example, expands until here, let's say here, you would also just be able just to walk up this wall and do the exact same thing. So the NPC will be responding to you too. So this way we can make sure that that doesn't happen, and we of course made some extra features with it, so you can do a lot more with PolyZones than you're used to. And of course a lot more options will be added to it. This is it for now. Until the next one.